Listen to the sound of a heavy, matte black metal credit card hitting a polished mahogany table. It's a Friday night. The restaurant is loud, the lighting is meticulously dim, and the waiter gives that practiced, deferential nod as he picks up the leather folder. "Right away, sir." For exactly 3 seconds, the guy sitting at the table feels like an absolute king. He feels powerful. He feels seen. What the waiter doesn't know, and what the guy's own friends don't know, is that underneath his meticulously tailored jacket, his heart is hammering against his ribs. He is silently praying the transaction doesn't decline. He is completely, mathematically underwater. Welcome to level 0 of the wealth ladder, the absolute, suffocating invisibility of having nothing. When your net worth hovers between $0 and $100,000, society treats you like a ghost. You aren't a threat. You aren't an asset. You are just traffic on the highway, blocking the lane for someone more important. And human beings cannot endure being invisible. So what do? They buy a disguise. They finance their own existence. Poverty is rarely just a mathematical deficit. It is a chronic, rotting disease of validation. You see, the machine knows exactly how much it hurts to be a nobody. The environment is perfectly engineered to sell you the cure for your own insecurity, usually packaged at a 29% annual percentage rate. Enter the modern archetype of the premium broke. This is the guy making $65,000 a year, who just signed his life away for a German luxury sedan. Let's be brutally honest. He didn't buy a mode of transportation. He bought an 84-month subscription to a fleeting illusion of superiority. He traded his future autonomy just to have the valet attendant at the club say, "Good evening, boss." That is the cheese. The steel trap closing around his neck is the panic that hits at 3 in the morning when the maintenance light blinks on the dashboard, and he realizes he doesn't have the cash flow to buy new tires. They run on the wheel, exhausted, sweating, bleeding out their paycheck to project a fake aura of success to strangers they actively despise. It is the ultimate paradox of the modern consumer. The exact moment you decide you need to look wealthy to earn the admiration of the pack, you permanently sabotage your ability to actually become wealthy. You are spending your finite, unrecoverable life energy to buy front-row tickets to your own financial funeral. Respect purchased with revolving debt is not respect. It is an extortion fee you pay to the very structure that ensures you remain obedient. At this starting level, the predators are entirely institutional. It's the dealership markup. It's the late fee. It's the retail therapy marketed as self-care. You think the game is just about surviving the month and looking successful while doing it. You think a nicer watch or a louder engine will finally make them treat you right. But the craziest part isn't the vanity tax you pay at the bottom. The craziest part is the invisible, sinister mutation of human behavior that happens when you finally claw your way out of the dirt. The moment you stop faking it, and your bank account actually crosses that 6-figure threshold, the rules of engagement drastically shift. The institutional predators back off, and the people you thought you trusted start looking at you with a brand new hunger. And once you realize how your own circle changes their tone, you can never unsee it. The shift is subtle at first. You hit that magical 6-figure salary, or your small business finally posts a real profit. Suddenly, you aren't fighting overdraft fees anymore. The physical environment around you morphs. You walk into the bank, and the teller doesn't give you that pitiful, hurried look. Now you're ushered into a glass-walled office. The branch manager offers you a sparkling water. They smile. They ask about your weekend. They want to upgrade your accounts. and offer you a premium line of credit. It feels like respect. It isn't respect. It's a biological assessment. The institutional predators have simply upgraded you from a nuisance to a host. They smell the fresh capital, and they're preparing the psychological syringes to extract it. But the bank is the least of your problems. The real danger is the social mutation happening right inside your own neighborhood and your friend group. Welcome to the fake Olympus, the deadliest stretch of the maze. When you have nothing, people leave you alone because you offer no utility. But when you have a little bit of visible success, a newly renovated kitchen, a luxury watch bought to celebrate a promotion, a vacation posted on your feed, you activate a primal unconscious envy in the pack. Human beings don't resent billionaires. Billionaires are abstract concepts. Human beings resent their college roommate, who suddenly makes double their salary. Proximity breeds the most vicious form of comparison. And this is where the behavioral extortion begins. You're expected to pick up the tab at dinner. Why? Because you're the successful one now. You're pressured to upgrade your lifestyle just to fit into the new circles you're trying to penetrate. The environment demands a cover charge for your newfound relevance. This is the modern tragedy of the ascending middle class. You escape the mud, only to willingly chain yourself to the expectations of people who don't actually care if you go bankrupt, as long as you look good doing it. Phase 2, the vanity tax collector. When your net worth sits between $100,000 and $1 million, you enter a psychological purgatory. You have enough cash to buy the props of wealth, but not enough equity to actually be immune to the system. You're entirely dependent on your active income to sustain the theater. Let's look at the mechanics of this trap. You move to a better zip code because you think it signifies progress. But a zip code is just a financial gravity well. Suddenly, your perfectly reliable sedan feels inadequate next to your neighbor's Porsche. You start justifying upgrades. Landscaping needs to look immaculate. The kids need private tutors. You aren't buying these things for utility. You're paying a vanity tax to a society that will replace you the second your cash flow stops. You are feeding premium cheese to a pack of rats who will devour you the moment you show weakness. Here is the brutal truth about social elevation. The people applauding your new lifestyle aren't celebrating your victory. They're calculating their own inadequacy. They smile at your driveway, but internally, they're hoping your engine blows a gasket. They want you to succeed just enough to be a convenient ATM, but never enough to make them feel small. The pressure to maintain the facade becomes a physical weight. You lie awake at 2 a.m. calculating how many months you can survive if your industry downsizes. You have a massive mortgage, spiraling subscriptions, and a terrifying suspicion that you're one crisis away from losing the illusion. You've upgraded your cage. The bars are no longer rusty iron. They're polished titanium. But you're still running on the wheel. You're sweating through high-end fabric, terrified to slow down because if you stop, the fragile ecosystem collapses. And just when you think you've managed the delicate balance of looking rich while secretly panicking, the real bloodsuckers arrive. Phase 3, the bloodline extortion. You cross the 7-figure threshold. You finally have $1 million, maybe $2 or $3 million in net worth. On paper, you've escaped the lower levels of the maze. You think you're safe because the bank managers respect you, and the system suddenly bends to your will. But this is exactly where the dynamic of human predation takes its most sinister turn. The predators are no longer wearing tailored suits and handing you loan applications. They are sitting right across from you at your Thanksgiving dinner table. When you step into the realm of undeniable, visible wealth, your existence becomes a mirror. For the people who grew up with you, that mirror reflects their own stagnation. To alleviate their psychological pain, they demand a tax. They call it loyalty. I call it bloodline extortion. Suddenly, your cousin has a brilliant idea for a craft brewery and needs angel funding. Your childhood friend needs a bridge loan because he's underwater on his mortgage. Your parents casually drop hints about a full kitchen renovation because they sacrificed everything to raise you. Here is a brutal truth society is too cowardly to admit. The exact moment you become the wealthiest person in your inner circle, you permanently cease to be a human being. You become a centralized bank with 0% interest rates and infinite forgiveness. They will weaponize your shared memories, using nostalgia as collateral to drain your liquidity. And if you dare to set a boundary, they will orchestrate an emotional assassination, painting you as the arrogant villain who forgot where he came from. So, you pay the ransom. You pick up every single tab. You fund the failing business because you're terrified of looking cheap in front of the people who knew you when you were broke. Phase 4. The opportunity cost of guilt. Let's bypass the emotion and look at the unforgiving math. Let's calculate the exact price of your inability to say no. Let's say you hand over $50,000 to your brother-in-law for his doomed startup out of sheer guilt. And let's add another $50,000 you spent upgrading your lifestyle just to host your family and prove you made it. That's $100,000 of liquid capital ripped from your portfolio. The human brain is tragically unequipped to understand compounding time. You didn't just lose $100,000. If you had parked that capital in a standard index fund returning a historical average of 8% a year and simply walked away for 25 years, that money would have compounded into nearly $700,000. You didn't give your brother-in-law 50 grand. You robbed your future self of hundreds of thousands of dollars of pure equity. You traded your ultimate financial autonomy for a temporary, fake smile at a barbecue. You blindly buy the cheese of being the generous family savior, and you step willingly into the mousetrap of infinite obligation. Every dollar you spend trying to manage their perception is a direct theft from your own freedom. You are bleeding out, masking your weakness as generosity. You have too much capital to disappear, but not enough to be untouchable. Keeping the money is harder than making it. And just when you think the extortion has peaked, you enter the zone where the system doesn't just want your cash, it wants your soul. Phase 5. The Velvet Guillotine. Let's talk about the Velvet Guillotine. You are sitting at $5, maybe $7 million in net worth. You survived the premium broke phase. You survived the bloodline extortion. Now, society offers you the ultimate bait. They invite you to the charity galas. They ask you to sit on the boards of local country clubs. You are finally part of the so-called elite. But the club is just a high-end slaughterhouse. At this level, the extortion loses its messy emotional edge and becomes ruthlessly sophisticated. It becomes institutionalized vanity. You aren't financing luxury sedans anymore. You are buying $50,000 tables at black-tie dinners just so the other millionaires in the room don't whisper that your cash flow is drying up. You are donating massive sums to causes you secretly do not care about, simply to purchase the social armor of being known as a philanthropist. Society convinces you that with great wealth comes the obligation to be a public monument. They stroke your ego. They put your name on a brass plaque. But a plaque is just a tombstone for the capital you surrendered. The true cost of visible wealth at the upper middle echelon is your peace of mind. Every contractor, every distant relative, every wealth manager now looks at you as a limitless reservoir. If you get into a minor fender bender, you aren't just another driver. You are a walking, breathing lawsuit. Your visibility is a devastating liability. You spend your days managing the paranoia of being a target, surrounded by people who smile at you while mathematically calculating exactly how much of your equity they can siphon before you notice. You thought the money would buy you freedom from the maze. Instead, you just paid millions of dollars to become the main attraction in the very center of the cage. And that is when the final epiphany hits. The ultimate realization that permanently shatters the entire illusion of the climb. Phase 6. The Ghost Privilege. True absolute wealth is not the ability to buy attention. It is the tactical, deliberate deployment of capital to eradicate attention. When you cross into the 8-figure realm, the absolute zenith of financial autonomy, the objective completely flips. The fake rich pay to be seen. The truly elite pay millions to be utterly, completely invisible. This is the domain of the ghosts. The highest privilege money can buy is profound irrelevance. It is the power to wear an unbranded, faded T-shirt, drive an unwashed 5-year-old truck, and walk through a crowded room without a single person asking you for a favor, a pitch, or an apology. You don't need the validation of the valet attendant anymore. You don't need your childhood friends to think you made it. You possess the ultimate flex. Waking up on a random Tuesday, looking at the chaos of a society drowning in high-interest debt and performative status, and knowing that you don't owe the machine a single damn thing. You sever the strings. You dismantle the mirrors. You realize that keeping up with the Joneses was a game designed entirely for peasants. The real winners bought the Joneses' mortgage, bundled it into a security, collected the dividend, and went off-grid. Do not build a monument to your success. Monuments get targeted by pigeons and thieves. Build a fortress of silence. Let them think you stalled out. Let them whisper that you lost your touch. Your silence is the impenetrable wall that protects your equity from their insatiable envy. If you are still watching this, you aren't looking for a pat on the back. You are looking for the exit door. Drop a comment below saying, "Invisible equity." The posers will have no idea what it means, but the ones building their empires in the dark will recognize their own. My name is Daniel Rath, and I will see you outside the maze.